Hey, what's up, guys? This next artist is going to require at least two videos. Who knows how many it's going to require? There's a lot of albums to go through, and there's bonus posters with a lot of them. So, and additional information I'll be providing. So, yeah, I know there's going to be at least two, if not more. So, let's get started. So, the artist, of course, is moving on to letter C. Cannibal Corpse. So this is their debut album from 1990, Eaten Back to Life. This is just a plain black a plain black vinyl variant. So I won't bore you with showing you the actual record. The insert for this is kind of lame. Unlike the CD version that came with a shot of the band and some artwork, they just included this lame black and white single sheet insert. It did come with this bonus poster though. It's a nice huge two-sided poster. So on the one side you've got the album cover artwork. And on the other side, we've got the skeletal fetus from their next album, Butchered at Birth. Pretty cool if you're looking to decorate your band's rehearsal space, or if you're a younger fan and you're looking to shock your parents. Cannibal Corpse have got some pretty nasty looking artwork. Song titles too, for that matter, especially during the Chris Barnes era of the band, which this is the first album of. This album, how I got introduced to Cannibal Corpse was actually watching, like many people, the comedy movie Ace Ventura's Pet Detective back in like 1993. It was just after they put out their album Tomb of the Mutilated, and Jim Carrey, in a scene in the movie, goes into a club and Cannibal Corpse are performing Hammer Smashed Face, arguably their most popular song in their entire history as a band. They're performing that song live in the club. And that introduced me to the band, and I went to my local record shop and found the first album that I could find by them available, and it was in 1996, and that album was Vile. Their first with their current vocalist, George Corpse Grinder Fisher. Chris Barnes had left during the recording of that album to pursue 6 Feet Under. He wasn't feeling, and the band wasn't feeling, the vibes on their collaboration on Vile. So it was initially going to be called Created to Kill, and it had an entirely different cover when Chris Barnes was still with them. But yeah, they re-recorded a lot of stuff and chose an entirely different album title and cover artwork by their album cover artist Vincent Locke. And yeah, that album is smoking. Anyways, moving on to the next, and one of my favorite Barnes era albums, and that is 1991's Butchered at Birth. I used to have a long sleeve with this artwork on it. Long sleeve t-shirt. This Back on Black version comes with a live track of Covered with Sores, which I'm not a big fan of. It's got, it would have been better if they had used a Chris Barnes era live version at least, but it's got Corpse Grinder, and Corpse Grinder didn't come into the band until many years later in 1996, and his vocals sound nothing like Chris Barnes, and so it kind of distracts, for me anyway, from the flow of the album. And if you've watched my other videos, I've shared my opinions on not being a fan of live albums and live tracks anyway. I think the sound is terrible, and when it comes to music, you're supposed to be spoiling your ear holes, right? So you want it to sound as good as it possibly can. And live venue recordings definitely do not do the music justice for making it sound as good as it can. They go into professional studios, bands, to make their albums sound as good as they can when you get a studio album. That's how the artist envisioned you to listen to their material. That's where it sounds the best. When you go to a live show, you're more or less just going for the experience of hanging out and watching them perform the songs and picking up some merch or different things to support the band, really. Honestly, I don't have too much use for it. I'd rather spend my money and put it completely towards records, because live shows have become expensive, and there's people acting like dummies in a lot of the shows. Like, if you're going to watch the band and you want to be right in front of them, like at the front of the stage where they are, you gotta constantly have your head on a swivel worrying about crowd surfers, or like the mosh pit getting out of control behind you, or people crushing you up against the guardrail. All kinds of like lameness. So that's why I don't go to shows anymore. I've been to a lot of them though, and I've seen Cannibal Corpse live twice. They put on a great show. They have, at least when I saw them, they had the craziest mosh pit experience that I've ever been in, and I've been to a lot of shows throughout the years. Anyways, moving on. The next album is Tomb of the Mutilated. It came with a little insert. This album was so brutal vocally for the time. It came out in 1992. They had to put this statement on it to say, yeah, Chris is not using effects on his voice. That's his actual esophagus producing that brutal of a vocal delivery. That's impressive. It came with a two-sided poster of the artwork, but I'm not going to show that one because I don't want... Well, you know what? I'm going to show it anyway. Whatever. If the video gets taken down, then if I have to recreate it, I won't show the artwork too much. But I want to show you everything that comes in with these albums, because this is not for mainstream people that aren't appreciating the music. This is for like actual fans of the bands that actually want to go out and support these bands and hear like really good tunes. And so, if you're a snowflake and you get offended easily, you probably shouldn't be watching this video. But if you know who Cannibal Corpse are and you're watching this video, which I'm assuming most of you do, and that's the reason you're here, you're not going to be offended by it, because Cannibal Corpse are very arguably one of the biggest death metal bands of the scene, and most people have heard of them and they know what to expect.